All right, first topic of tonight. Hey, P-Man. Hey, WC Laxon. I see you guys. Is Coach Edwards anti-camp? And I'm not talking about some Broadway play. Okay. One of the things I wanted to just cover is no, I'm not anti-camp. No. And the reason why I'm not anti-camp is because of what I call my gem theory, which is that you can go to any camp and your goalie, no matter how motivated they are, will come away with something, right? One gem, one little tidbit. I can remember the first gem that I was ever taught, which was by the Brown Lacrosse Goalie when I was on the roof of Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island, going out of camp. Dom Starsia was the head coach, and Pete Lazzani was the assistant. And one of the things that I was taught was this idea that if you decide to leave the crease, go. And so what that did for me was that was the first coach that ever said, hey, leaving the crease was okay. And so here's a division, an Ivy League lacrosse goalie telling me that it's okay to leave the crease. But the idea that if I decided to go and not second guess it. And he said, and I've never forgotten this, right? This is a long time. This is probably 35 years ago. This idea that, okay, if you decide to leave the crease, you're going to learn more by going 100% than by going halfway and then retreating and messing things up. Okay. So don't, that was important. All right. And I've always stayed with it. And when I went to the Cornell camp, went to the Syracuse camp, when I went to top 205 at Loyola, when, some of these things don't even, Gettysburg, GW Mix was one of my coaches, and John Reese from Yale, and the head coach or the coach that made Sal Lacasio great. Okay, I also saw him and Guy Van Arsdale. So there's a gem to be had at every camp. So am I anti-camp? No, but what I am is pro you being a good consumer, and that starts with you knowing what it is your goalie needs. Okay. So for some of you, if your goalies are like brand new and they haven't had a lot of lacrosse experience, just playing more lacrosse is going to help them. And so that can be done at a lot of places. Right. And so before you shell out a couple $100 for a camp, and I wouldn't really shell out anything less than that, but the idea is that, just being around other goalies, being around other players. I don't always like goalie specific camps. I don't, there's value to be had playing with new and different defensemen and new and different midfielders and getting thrown in on a team and having a coach teach you how to run a clear real quick. And that's something that really benefited me when I was young. And I wish that there was more of that, but we've kind of gotten away from that. And one of the things that we need to, you have to understand is like, what does your goalie need? Is your goalie like good at saving the ball and they're fairly athletic and they've got that kind of handled? Well, going to a camp or clinic where basically all they're going to be doing is getting shot on by college players or older players, that's not necessarily what they need, right? So now, are they exciting? Totally. Like totally. And there's some great businesses out there now that have capitalized. Like there are better camps too. Dylan, I see your question. I'll get to that in a second. But the idea is, do you want to, like, what are you trying to improve? Okay, what are you trying to improve? And how do you serve that? So one of the things that a lot of people jump to is that their goalie just needs more. And I wrote about this in my book, in An Athlete's Guide to Winning in Sports and Life, this idea that a lot of people, especially in North America, think that more is the plan. Okay, more is the plan. More is not a plan. More lacrosse is not necessarily the plan. If your goalie's brand new, though, more lacrosse is a good deal. If your goalie is a couple years into playing and then they've had a rough go, maybe their team isn't very good, playing somewhere else is going to be beneficial to them, right? So, however, what you've got to remember, what your goalie needs is, right? So there's three key abilities for any athlete. And if you go to athletespecific.com, and I'll just put the link in here, I've got a free course on this exact topic. So if you want to learn more about it, it is here. and I'll show it to you in a second. So physical, technical, and tactical abilities. So your goalie needs that. And so I've got a course, one for athletes and one for parents. I'll put the link in the comments here right now. Okay. So there they are. Barry McNamara, I see him. Okay. So if you want to check that out, go get the in-depth on 3 key abilities. So like if your athlete is weak and unathletic, you should probably take that money and not invest it in a camp, into a goalie camp or clinic, and invest it into strength and conditioning, right? You're going to get a better bang for your buck there. Okay. If your goalie has played on a bad team, well, they don't necessarily need more shots. Maybe they need to understand more about how the game is played. And so instead of sending them to a camp or a clinic, it's better to get them on a travel team or club team where they're going to play more lacrosse and understand more clearing options and fast breaks and things like that. So what I don't like is how camps have kind of progressed recently. And because of Instagram, what's happening is we get one company or 2 companies, good people, good coaches, good kids, like we're doing good stuff. But the idea is that they're kind of all the same. And what ends up happening is a lot of times these camps have a wide mix of goalies. So anytime I see a clinic that says, hey, this clinic is good for goalies of all ages, I'm like, because your goalie, if you're a JV high school goalie, you don't need to be shot on by college players, right? That's too big of a jump. Right. If you're in junior high, you don't need to be getting shot on by juniors and seniors in high school. You need something that's applicable to you. So it's kind of like a New York diner with one of those massive diner menus. It's like they can't do any of this stuff real well. So you're excited, like, yeah, there's pancakes and there's Montreal smoked meats and there's Reubens and there's bagels and there's eggs over easy and over hard and poached, and yeah, none of it's good. It's all there, but none of it's great. So you just got to think like, what is it your really goalie needs? Because what's happening now is that a lot of the camps, the clinics are basically copycats of each other, and I hate that, right? And because one, if you're copycatting crap, you're just getting more crap, and unfortunately, there's a lot of that going around. And there's one thing where if you run a camp or a clinic, the business of running camps or clinics, the perception is that the parent is buying lacrosse by the pound. It's like, oh, I'm paying X amount of dollars and my goalie's only there for 90 minutes. That doesn't seem like enough, right? So what happens is these camps or clinics they'll do stuff that is really filler. So one of the things that everybody loves that I can't stand, that I don't really think is beneficial to your goalie, is goalie games. Right. So goalie games. It's like, oh, we're going to take all our campers. We got all these goalies, got 100 goalies, and we're going to have goalie games. Yes, it's fun. Yes, it's interesting. But odds are your goalie got in the cage because they didn't want to play out in the field, most likely. Right. And so now what you have is a bunch of kids playing out in the field who suck at it. And then one kid's in the cage getting shot on by shooters that don't represent the shooters that they see on game day. That doesn't make any sense to me, but I get it. It's fun. And so if you're, you just have to know what you're paying for. So if you're a parent and you're just paying to get your kid out of the house for a weekend and you're going to have a holiday with your loved ones, like, go for it. Like, that's cool, but just know what you're paying for. Right. Mike Simmons, John Reese was one of the best camp or coach things I ever had. I went to top 205 at Loyola. There was a team that was going to play at, I can't remember the school right now, but it dropped out. It was from Colorado. They dropped out, and they basically said, anybody staying in the area who wants to go to this tournament and make up a team, come. And so John Reese was our coach. GW Mix ran the camp, and I don't think GW Mix is involved in lacrosse anymore. He was at Penn at the time, but yeah, fantastic coach, good guy. So what's happening in a lot of these camps, guys, is goes like this. So one, there's a wide mix of kids. Two, what usually happens? Well, you start off with like a dynamic warm up. Here's the problem with dynamic warm ups is that first, like most things in the fitness industry, they get completely bastardized. It's kind of like burpees. CrossFit took burpees. Now everybody's got to do burpees. And burpees are like one of the worst things to do for an athlete, like for wrists and shoulders and all sorts of stuff. It's just, it's just not good. The cost benefit isn't there. Well, dynamic warmups are one of those things. And the reason why dynamic warmups became popular was because there was a study done where they took a group of sprinters and they had one group of sprinters and they had them do a static stretching warm up. So for those of you that are kind of that are parent age, you may remember when you were back in school, everybody would like get in a circle or lines and do static stretching, and then you'd go out and you'd play. You go right into like you know um, line drills, things like that, and the goalies would get warmed up, yada yada, whatever. But then a study was done, and it basically showed that okay, if you tested this group of sprinters, if you did the group that did the dynamic warm up, they sprinted faster. Okay, that's great. If you're a world class sprinter, no doubt a dynamic warm up is going to help you. But however, that athlete is also ridiculously talented to be a sprinter in the first place. Okay. Now, your kid is not that sprinter, right? And I guarantee you, even if your kid is a sprinter and they're in high school, I guarantee you that dynamic warm up is not really helping them. Because what do? You see teams doing dynamic warm ups, and you see like two of the kids actually doing them right, and everybody else kind of like going through the motions. They're not getting any benefit. You'd be better off just running right into shooting drills, right? Than doing that. Also, your athlete most likely, and I would say this applies to like 98% of the people who are listening to me right now, your athlete would benefit from static stretching prior to practice, right? Getting and then in sort of into some more mobility work. So I don't like dynamic warmups. But the other thing is that if I ran a camp or a clinic, I wouldn't do warmups at all. I would put that on the athlete to come into. So let's say we're starting at 6:00. That athlete shows up early, does their warm up for them. Why? Because they've spent the time learning what they need to do to improve their self as a goalie and as an athlete, right? Then they hop in the cage, right? Because the idea is we don't want to basically, we want to have a mobile, activated body prior to getting shot on. But dynamic warm ups are a mess for most goalies, okay? Most athletes, period. Okay. So then these camps now, everybody's piling on. They're doing some sort of hand-eye work, and hand-eye again is in my opinion is a waste of time. If your kid is motivated enough to even go to a camp, right, and you're motivated as a parent to shell out the money to send them to a camp, odds are your kid doesn't need some sort of hand-eye drill to get ready, to get activated. No, what you need is your goalie needs shots. They need shooters, and they need shots and shooters that are applicable to their game at this level. Okay, like I said before, getting shot on by a college kid from 15 yards right out front is not what your goalie needs. What your goalie needs is to understand like what the angles are like when that player like comes around the back of the cage on a crease roll, or somebody dodges from X, or somebody inside rolls and fakes and shoots like some sort of twister shot, or behind the back or between the legs, or one-handed. Your goalie needs to develop their shot library. And what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing from goalies that I'm working with is that a lot of these camps or clinics are just a shooting gallery, right? And it's fun and it's exciting, and it is. It's like I remember getting shot on by Gary Gates when I went to the Syracuse camp, just ripping on me from 20 yards, top of the box, just bring it. It's exciting, and I get it. Is it worth like $400 to go? No, no, don't do that. So the quick react drills, like when people, this blows my mind, right? You've seen like one goalie stands with two balls, like one ball in each hand, and they drop one, and the other goalie's got to stand there and go like, "Ha, I got it," right? The best one is seeing a goalie doing that by themselves, right? That blows my mind, because you're not tricking anybody when you're dropping the ball to yourself. It's like slapping yourself in your own head. Like it's not helping, and it's coming, right? Like everybody with me on that one? Don't do that. So the quick react drill, again, it's a time filler. It doesn't make any sense. And then you do like softball toss, and that's and I'm like, wait a second. If your goalie can catch a ball, like we got Rocket Inzer in here, right? I see you, buddy. And Rocket isn't going to get any benefit from dropping balls to himself or having somebody do a softball toss and him catching one hand. He needs to get ripped on. That's what he needs. But no goalie needs that little basic ball toss. And don't get me started on juggling. You all know that. Joey Turner, I see you, buddy. Welcome. Okay. So then what should you do? Right? So Coach Edwards isn't anti-camp, right? I'm not anti-camp. What should you do? Well, this is where it would be easier for me to say, like I want to work with you. Whatever. Your goalie, I may not be appropriate for your goalie. But when you talk about resources, time, energy, and money, and where you should invest your money, let's create some scenarios here. So the big one is: should you spend money on going to a camp, or should you spend money on or should you spend money on strength and conditioning? Well, when you go to the understanding of, all right, my goalie needs shots, it needs to develop their shot library and my save library. Well, I want to maybe go someplace where I need a big variety of shots and shooters. Am I going to get that at a camp for a couple of days? Probably not, because it's really hard to front load that. Okay. Do you need so then would you be better off spending money on a camp or playing on a travel team? Probably the travel team, right? If you're going to get like 8 practice sessions and 6 games or whatever it is for you, it's probably better bang for the buck, right? And I'll cover should you do it all at the end. But then, okay, should you go to a camp or clinic, or should you invest in strength and conditioning? Well, check out the course that I put the link in here about the go to athletespecific.com/3, the number 3 keys. Watch that and then decide, like, okay, does my athlete need to improve their physical ability, their technical ability playing the game, or their tactical ability understanding the game? That's going to give you the answer there. I would say for 75% of the goalies I work with, choosing between a camp or clinic or travel team and investing in strength and conditioning is the better way to go. Okay. That's for like about 75% of the goalies that I see. Okay. I had a goalie this past week that they wanted to join Lacrosse Goalie University. And I said, no, I'm not good for you right now. Right. I'm not good for you right now. You've got to get to strength and conditioning and come back as a better athlete. So we have a better foundation to work with. That's important. Now, no camp or clinic is going to turn your money away. No, they're just going to say, hey, you want to come? Let's go. All right, we'll do it. All right. They'll cash your check. Okay. So camp or clinic, travel team, camp or clinic, strength and conditioning, camp or clinic, nothing. All right. So if you're weighing going to a camp or clinic or doing nothing, well, sometimes nothing is something. And this is where, I've talked about, as someone who works with elite athletes in a variety of sports, one of the things that I've learned is that I believe 100% there's no such thing as burnout, but there is such thing as under recovered. So if your goalie has been playing lacrosse for like a year and a half straight and they haven't had a break, or maybe you took some time off for Christmas and Easter a little bit, and now you're going to the summer and it's like more lacrosse, yeah, man, you're probably going to be better off taking a break, because you have to have valleys to have peaks. And a lot of people forget this, right? You have to have valleys to have peaks. And if your goalie hasn't had a valley in a while, like a rest, then they're not having peaks either. And I had a parent say, like, oh yeah, but my goalie's playing great. They just had this great spring and we're going to the summer. I'm like, yeah, dude, but your goalie has played like 8 consecutive quarters of lacrosse. Enjoy the summer. Take a breather. Go to Disneyland, right? Get on the water, go fishing, do whatever, do nothing, put the stick away. I want, for how long? Well, put the stick away long enough where you're nervous that when you come back, you think you're going to suck. That's usually a good test, right? And if the goalie can be really honest about that, that could be a weekend, it could be a week, it could be a month, 2 months, hell, it could be 6 months. Goalie says, I'm going to put the stick down, because I want you to come back and I want you to have that little bit of that nervous energy, like, oh my God, am I going to forget how to be a lacrosse goalie? That's probably that to me is the for any athlete, that's the cutoff for me. How much rest should I take? Well, how long do you think you need to go before you feel like you're not going to be very good at this? Okay. And then people say, like, well, yeah, but what about that? Like, I think it was like Yo-Yo Ma or somebody. It wasn't Yo-Yo Ma. It was like some unheard of pianist who said, like, if I take one day off from practice, I notice. If I take 2 days off from practice, my teacher notices. If I take 3 days off from practice, the audience notices, right? And so you want to think of that. So there is a comparison between camps or clinics and doing nothing at all, right? And so you've got to decide nothing is good. And just remember, like I've said this before, but remember, sometimes the kids are excited to play, but the parents are exhausted, right? And that's a reality, and that's a fact. And I think as athletes, you can, as parents who love their kids and they want the best for their kids, you can overextend yourself, right? And you can just go like, oh my God, I haven't had a weekend free in months. And mom's like, I want a spa day. It's camp or clinic and me getting a massage. Think about it. Okay. Um, because overall the cost benefit is big there. So then camp, clinic, travel team, club team, strength and conditioning coach, nothing, or another sport. Okay, another sport. That's kind of like your fifth option. Well, um, this kind of goes into the nothing category and the valleys category. Having a mental break from lacrosse, but not necessarily like a physical break. So let's say your athlete, wants to play soccer over the summer, or go to football camp, or do ultimate frisbee, or cliff diving. I don't, whatever. You'll have to decide where that fits in. But the idea is, a lot of times, if your athlete is craving to do that, then it's probably something worth doing, right? Because it kind of kills two birds with one stone. It can improve the strength and conditioning side, right? It can also add to the break side that comes from doing nothing. But this is where, kind of to the uninitiated, sometimes people think like, well, it's not enough. My athlete's not going to be doing enough. They're going to get out of shape. They're not going to get out of shape, right? You're going to get back to shape in literally about 9 days. Okay, so keep that in mind. Don't have that fear of missing out, and that you have to do something, right? Because you can go to a camp or clinic and you can be taught stuff that just doesn't help you, or worse, hurts you, right? So that's also something that you're balancing there. Okay. um, um, okay. Comment here. Who's that from? Hey, Chris Kunkel, I see you. And we've got, where is it? I'm not seeing who wrote that to me. Agree about the breaks, both mental and physical. Every goalie will be different with the amount of time needed. This is very true. This is very, very true. So you, and as parents, your kids a lot, right? You know your kids if they're tired, if they're grumpy, if they're if they're unhealthy, if they're coming over an injury. Sometimes the you're the best to decide. So if you go to your travel team coach and say, "Hey, we're going to take the summer off," your travel team coach would be like, "Wait, no. We need you. We want you." Right? If you ask somebody who owns a camp or a clinic, they're going to tell you, "Oh, come to the camp or come to the clinic." Right? We'd love to have you. Well, no shit, they'd love to have you. Like your dollars in their pocket, right? And that's cool. And sometimes there's people who lead with the heart and say what you really need, and sometimes there's not people who do that, right? So keep that up. So Brendan Cullen. So the answer is yes to all of it, right? Do it all. Right? So that's the final option, is do it all. So if you have the time, energy, and the resources, if you have unlimited funds, if your athlete is a freak of nature athletically and they are bouncing off the walls and they can deal with that volume. So that's the other thing to consider here is, during the week, as I talk to goalies, I may have a goalie in one area of the country that's doing 2 practices a week in one game. And then I'll have another goalie that's doing, 2 practices with one team, 2 practices with another team, private training with a local goalie coach, and then games on the weekend. So they obviously have their body is adapted, hopefully, to a different level of training, right? And so if you're the parent of the goalie and they're practicing twice a week, and you look at oh my God, my kid would totally burn out like that. That's not necessarily true, but it's just volume, and keeping track of volume is something you very easily do in the calendar. And you could do it by the amount of time they've been playing. So he's got an hour and a half practice twice a week. She's got strength and conditioning Monday, Wednesday, Friday. She plays on Saturday mornings, and then she's got 2 practices. Well, overall, that's, what is that? 6-9 hours a week. Just for perspective, a youth tennis player who's committed to playing tennis will play 21 hours a week, right? For 12 to 14-year-old tennis player will be playing 21 hours a week of tennis. And that's pretty badass. Okay. So I want you to keep that in perspective. Again, it's often not the athlete that needs the rest. It's the parents. Okay. So keep that in mind. Okay. So what else? I think that covered all of the options there. Different sport, strength and conditioning, travel teams, nothing, taking a break, enjoying your summer. Those are all options. So am I anti-camp clinic? No. However, you've got to be careful of what's being taught there. You've got to, and I would ask, if someone's running a camp or clinic, ask them, give you an itinerary of what will be covered. If they can't, and to like basically they have that schedule, and they'll have like, if they're covering like, hey, we're gonna do dynamic warm up, and then we're gonna get shot on by college kids, and then we're gonna do 12 minutes of Hiko sticks or reaction balls or like, right, just make understand what you're getting there, right? And be an educated consumer. Okay, all right. All right, guys, thanks for watching and thanks for listening wherever you are. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you like this, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. When you're ready, head on over to lacrossegoalieuniversity.com/coaching so I can work with you and your goalie. And while you're at it, check out athletespecific.com to learn more about mental performance and high performance. You may not know this, but I work with athletes in a variety of sports. Lacrosse is my love, but man, I love athletes and the families who support them. So head on over to athletespecific.com, check it out. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.